Listen up! There is a storm coming! Like nothing you have ever seen!
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the show. Yes, I don't know if this is the first show from the front of the bus, but at least I think it'll be close to the first show from the front of the bus. Hello. Oh, look who's in already. Hookstagram. Nice to have you in. Yeah, we'll try and have a good week, you too. I'm running a little early this morning, only because there's so much to talk about. I will do another show tonight at some stage. I'm still doing a bit of research, and I'm looking down here because I'm going through the iPad. My God, the amount of tears, bitching, moaning, wailing, and carrying on over a referendum result that was always going to fail. It was always going to fail. Why did they decide to keep pushing on with it? Who knows? Well, I think we do know. They were desperate to try and get it over the line. And once Dutton and the Liberals removed their support of it, I don't think there was much hope of that ever happening. Mind you, Dutton still thinks that's a good idea and will be trying to do the same thing again at some stage. Got to be a bit careful about that. But what has this exposed? Well, it has certainly exposed how out of touch Canberra is. The ACT was the only place in Australia that voted in favour of this bullshit thing that went on last weekend. The only place in Australia. Now, that's because 98% of the people that live there work for the government. This should frighten every Australian. It should frighten us senseless, because the seat of power in this country has nothing to do with Australians. Those people in Canberra, those people who voted so overwhelmingly to support this bullshit put forward by the government, have been exposed wildly, broadly, expansively exposed. All the bureaucrats, all of them. Oh, I'm going to vote yes, I feel good about it. All of them. The only place in Australia with overwhelming support and no Aborigines. Unbelievable. What are we going to do about it, people? It is clear Canberra is so out of touch with the rest of Australia. So out of touch. They are so far removed from the mum and dads living on our streets in this beautiful country. It is no wonder they are wrecking it, because they have no idea. Now, they're either complete morons, which I'm willing to believe, or they are doing this by design, which I'm also willing to believe, sadly. I mean, I agree. Albo's an absolute fuckwit. I mean, but is it really him? Still don't think so. There is an ABC presenter who came on in the last 24 hours or so and has had a bleat and a moan. Isabella Higgins, I think her name is, a great Aboriginal name. She doesn't even look terribly First Nations-ish, actually. She looks more Sri Lankan or Indian, as do a lot of our First Nations people, particularly from up north. Certainly there are those influences in there, so could well be possible. But, yeah, this one, she's a ringer. Anyway, she's decided now that this has been the most racist thing that's ever happened in this country. She's decided that she's going to keep pushing this and keep moving forward. And regardless of what the people say, Australians are going to experience a backlash, or a blacklash, if you like, because the Aboriginal nation, or the tribal nation of this country, is feeling rejected. Bullshit! 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 Couldn't be more bullshit. The First Nations people of this country, for the most part, don't want this any more than anybody else. Only the ones that have been bribed, only the ones that have been fed whatever they require to get them over the line, they'll support it, absolutely. The government are very good at sticking money into tribal elders and other things, not just money. They're very good at offering bribes. Very good. And unfortunately, some of these people take them because they don't know any better or because they feel they are doing the right thing, whatever. It doesn't really matter what the bribe or the reason for taking it. The fact is, it is offered by a government and a bunch of bureaucrats that clearly have nefarious things in mind for this nation. So, folks, today I want you to think about it because tonight I want to have a talk about it. What do? Canberra is so out of touch. Now, if we remove the interchangeables in Canberra, who are or what are the interchangeables in Canberra? The interchangeables in Canberra are the ones we elect. All right? The ones that aren't interchangeable in Canberra are the bureaucrats. All right? Their paths stay clear. They can be in that job their entire career, can spend 40 years in there, multiple governments, different flavours, but the bureaucrats maintain control. This vote has perfectly shown Australia how the deep state owns Canberra and the bureaucracy. Forget the politicians. Who cares? They're interchangeable. They're malleable. They're bribable. The official bribing bastards, the ones who work in the background 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, every year, are the bureaucrats. How are we going to get rid of them? How do we come up with a new system? Well, term limits will be a good start. But these little fiefdom builders, they'll be able to build their little kingdoms inside there, given 5 years. Maybe they get a 5-year time. They'll be able to build a fiefdom in that time. They will be able to build up their little supporting group, their little power group, and when the top one rolls out after 5 years, his replacement will be in exactly the same vein. So how do we avoid that? That's what I want you to think about, folks, because it's clear it's not just the politicians. Broadly speaking, the politicians are outnumbered 4-1 in Canberra by the bureaucrats, probably more, 6 or 8-1. They're the ones we have to get rid of, folks. The bureaucrats in Canberra. Term limits for all politicians and term limits for every bureaucrat. That's a start. What is that term limit? 2 years? Great. I don't think that's a bad thing because somebody leading the bureaucracy won't be able to get anything achieved in 2 years because of the nature of the bureaucracy. So they're going to have to build things that others can take over and keep building to build to fruition. Now, will we attract those sorts of people to a bureaucracy that isn't going to give them a comfortably, very comfortably paid job for the rest of their lives with absolutely zero consequences? They report to nobody. Sure, they get dragged in front of Senate estimates occasionally. Sure, they get squirmed in their chair occasionally, but we never see anything good come out of it. Never. So these bureaucrats in Canberra, these ABC stooges on our, 80 cents a day piece of shit national broadcaster. I don't know who this Isabella Higgins is, never heard of her, but she's not a broadcaster's backside. I can give you the drum. She is inciting racism in black people in this country who may not be as discerning of thought as many others. She is the racist in this country, and she is the one fanning the racist flame today on the ABC. She's not the only one. It is the ABC. In fact, the ABC's in meltdown. Triple J the other night, some, I don't know, punked up little presenter on Triple J decided to play Yothu Yindi's Treaty for an hour and said it was the most racist thing that he'd ever seen happen in Australia, that this no vote went through. Oh, played Treaty for an hour. This 12-year-old fuckknuckle wouldn't know what treaty meant. If he did, he wouldn't be supporting it. Most of the Aboriginal nation don't support treaty. Our tribal leaders don't support treaty. Why? Because there are people like Thomas Mayo, the fake Jewish Sri Lankan Aboriginal, who are going to make the rest of the country pay for it. Do you remember what happened in Western Australia recently? You couldn't dig more than 50 centimetres into the ground. Otherwise, you were damaging the land. You had to go and get you didn't have to get permission. You had to get not just permission. You also had to figure out how much you were going to pay to be allowed to plant your own crop. That's coming, folks. And isn't it nice? South Australia, the state I've arrived in, beautiful place, Mannum. We'll get to that. South Australia have legislated already to implement the voice on a state-based level, from local councils all the way up to state council or state government level. Already legislated. Now, I hear tell that One Nation, who have one or maybe two members in the local South Australian Parliament, are ready for that. How can the South Australian government proffer up this bullshit document they are putting forward, which is in effect everything that we voted no for yesterday or the day before? How can the South Australian government in good faith put that up when 60% of the state voted against it? So it looks like One Nation South Australia are going to be putting up something in opposition to that, and I dare say One Nation federally might have a go too. How can a bill, which has, I believe, already been passed, how can that bill be put into action when it is based on a question that was given a resounding no over the weekend? Well, it's because these governments don't care. So they will be held to account. In South Australia, keep your eyes on it. South Australia will be the first, because they're obviously going to try and push this in their own little way. Watch what happens to this state. Watch what happens. It will only be after another year or two of pain that people will get rid of this dickhead and everything will go back to normal. But I'm sure that in the interim, people in South Australia are going to be made suffer through this shit. It's just ridiculous. Brucey, baby. How are you, buddy? My place, Maryborough. What a wonderful time we had there. Bruce and his lovely other half, Peter. A great bunch of folks. And I'm not wearing them. And they're actually in my drawer down the other end, so I can't show them. But I got a pair of socks, that crocheted socks. I know you think, crocheted socks? When it's cold, the best socks. Can I just tell you, feet haven't been so warm. I slept in them last night. They are my bed socks, and absolutely wonderful. And you can get them if you go to my place, Maryborough. There is a couple of wonderful folks who are working alongside of Bruce and Peter, and that's Judy and I think it's John. Memory's going. They have, and I've got some video. We're going to have a bit of a chat. I'll cut that up today, and I'll get that out over the next day or two, a video of where we've been so far and the people we've met. So I'll get that out. But yeah, Maryborough, great little group, doing really great things. If you're in that area, please go and join My Place Maryborough. It is awesome. I'm just having a bit of a glance through the question or through the thing. Yeah, 65,000 years. That's complete bullshit too. Yeah. I would be concerned about any civilization that hadn't discovered the wheel 200 years ago, because that is exactly where our tribal nation was. They hadn't discovered the wheel. Maybe they had no need for it. They're very good at walking at that stage and wandering around the country. But yes, I would be concerned about that myself. Yeah, I do think a lot of people are waking up more and more slowly. Little things are just adding up, and I think that's slowly breaking the wall down. But we can't reduce our efforts. We've got to redouble them. The more people we can get to question these things, the better it will be. The more people that question the Canberra result. Talk to people about the Canberra result. How is it the territory that runs this country is so out of touch with the rest of this country. That's what this election result demonstrates starkly. That those people, those shiny bum pencil pushing assholes in Canberra, not the politicians, although they're also assholes and shiny bum pen pushers, but the bureaucrats. That's where the danger is for us. If we can't clean out the bureaucrats, we'll never fix this. And I don't think it's a matter of just taking out the top of the bureaucrats. I think you need to take them all out and start again. Because the poison is deep in those bastards. Deep. So give it some thought, folks. Give it some thought. I'm really keen to get your ideas on what we can do to oust these out-of-touch pricks in Canberra from their 6- and 7-figure paying jobs and put people in who will do the right thing for this country. There are plenty of us who will. The line in the sand is going to be drawn. And I think it's much closer to being drawn than many believe. When that line in the sand is drawn, God help the government bureaucrat that steps over it. The Australian people have had enough. Gerard Rennick, are you listening? You and your political cronies in the current form do not offer a political solution. That is why you and the rest of your political fucktard mates are irrelevant to our movement. If you want to be relevant to this movement, you come to us. Learn about our movement. Learn why we don't and will never trust government or bureaucracy, the things you represent, again. You have had your chance. You have had multiple chances. The politicians of this nation have had every chance. How about they've had their last chance, folks? This referendum has thrown into absolute stark relief how clearly divided this country is. The whole country on one side and Canberra on the other. That can't stay that way. Canberra has outed itself. The question is, what are we going to do about it? Because it's only us that can do something about it. The black bureaucracy, the black bastard politicians and their minions in Canberra have just outed themselves so starkly, we cannot ignore it. How can Australians anywhere outside of the ACT expect fair and reasonable government when you've got those bastards in there, particularly the bureaucrats, running it? Can't happen. So what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? Because it's up to us. We have to do something about it. We can't pick up our guns. We can't take our pitchforks. We can't start riots. We can't. But what can we do? There is a lot we can do. Have a think about it. Write a list. We might start compiling that list. We might put it on the Voice of Freedom website. We might try and encourage people to follow that list and do those things. And if we can spread that far enough and wide enough through all the other freedom fighters as well, provided they think it's a good idea, we can achieve something. I have an idea. Not prepared to give it out yet, but I have an idea. It might not be the best idea. Very happy to have the idea changed to somebody else's idea. Maybe your idea. That's the whole point of what I do, folks. I'll throw up an idea, but it's just an idea. Maybe you can make it better. Maybe you have a better idea, a whole different tact. If that's the case, we need you. We need you. Our country needs you. Australia now, more than ever, needs people like you to stand up. Needs people like you to be clear of mind, strong of heart, fierce, to not kowtow, to not be shied away by the bullies. It's about time the Australian people bullied the bastards back. The bureaucrats are on notice. We're coming. And what we're going to do, not sure yet, but at the end of it, you won't have a job. And some of you, I suggest, might be swinging from a rope for what you've done. You have committed treason, high treason, against the people of this country. And that is something that I find very difficult to forgive. So have a think about what we can do, folks, because today Canberra is outed. We cannot trust anybody who works in that shithole. It should be flooded, turned into a dam for the benefit of the rest of the country. Have a think about it, folks, because tonight I'm going to want to know your thoughts.
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back.
Does anybody else want to stay?
Let's rock!